Today's episode, we are going to be doing a rapid fire answer and question session of some of the hot sex questions that we have been gathering from different conferences, Instagram messages, and emails. We are so excited to dive into these really good questions. So, welcome to the Connection Codes podcast. This is the podcast where we break open our emotions that take us from being disconnected to connected in our relationships and with ourselves. I am your host, Tiara Wages, and I am here today with clinical sexologist, marriage and family therapist, Dr. Glenn Hill, and his incredible wife, Phyllis Hill. And together, they have founded the Connection Codes, which is the science behind human connection. We are so excited that you are joining us today, and let's dive in.
Yeah. Hello, world.
Hi, friends.
We're glad you're here, and we're glad that we get to be here. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's really fun today. And I was thinking about that, we get a lot of questions.
Yeah.
And when we're out speaking, we lay the foundation of how to connect in emotion, in relationships. But often we're also asked to follow with those topics with a one night kind of sneak peek of what our late night masterclass is all about.
Yeah.
And so we love that because I don't know that we have settings where we have these opportunities to ask any question about sex that you want to ask. And we do some teaching, but we really spend the bulk of the time answering questions, which is a really fun night. It's always anonymous, so people write them down. And then, also through email and through other forms, we get questions. So today's episode is all about the questions that have to do with sex.
I love that so much. And if you yourself have any questions, you can email them to info@connectioncodes.co, and we will feature them on future episodes.
Yeah. And let me just say as a background that the vast majority, because there are plenty of podcasts, whatever, presentations out there about sexuality, the vast majority of them are about the externals, the technique, the position, whatever, and it's very much viewed as just an activity. We approach it from a very different perspective, that it's all about connection. And certainly the external things, whatever the issue is, they matter. We're not saying that they don't exist, just like we talk about logistics. Logistics do exist. It's not that they aren't even present, but that's not what connects people. The two individuals can have incredible technique, positions, whatever, be really advanced, and not have a connected sexual relationship at all. And the opposite is not true. A couple can be what we would reference as vanilla, very, very plain sexually, and have dynamic sexual connection, because dynamic sexual connections is built on top of deep emotional connection. And if you do not have deep emotional connection, you will not connect deeply sexually. Again, that doesn't mean you can't have sexual activity, doesn't mean you can't have sexual involvement, but it will not be a deeply connecting sexual relationship, sexual experience.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get to our very first question, and that is, does your frequency of times you have sex relate to the health of your sex life?
Yeah, and I'm always a stickler for even the phrases, people say have sex. Well, in this culture, everybody knows that means to stick tab A into slot B, which I think is unfortunate that we even reduce it to that. We view it that way because someone can put tab A into slot B, have vaginal penetration, and not have a sexual connection at all. And they go say, oh, no, they had sex. Well, okay, fine, I guess. I don't know. But we just don't approach sexuality that way. We don't view sexuality that way. But frequency is somewhat irrelevant. I mean, I would not say that if a couple is involved sexually once a year, so yes, obviously frequency in that situation, you're going, whoa, that's not very, very frequent. But I also have sat with plenty of couples that are involved sexually multiple times a day, literally multiple times every day, and they have no sexual connection at all, and the health of their sexual relationship is horrible. So every individual is unique, every couple is unique, so we can't really say yes or no that, here's the magic number. There are norms, and we're slightly aware of those, but it doesn't really even matter. What matters is what you're experiencing relationally in the process.
Yeah, and I think that's really important to realize there are actually couples who are sexually active every day, multiple times a day, and they're not it's not a positive. I mean, it's not, they're not healthy people in their relationship.
Right.
And so, to answer that question just as it was stated, then all we needed to say was no.
Right.
We just expounded a little bit on that.
I think it's okay to expound a little bit
yeah.
because it makes me think about, for Wes and I mean, we used to be way more frequent than we are now, but we were not healthy.
Right.
I mean, we weren't doing it multiple times a day, but we are in such a healthy place now that actually I won't say his desire is less, but he's not like needing to fill a hole inside of his body. He feels whole, and now it's just something that we do together to experience oneness, and so I actually think it's more of the health of your sex life than impacts the frequency of it.
Yeah, one of the things we've started talking about is how incredibly sexually connecting non-specifically sexual activity is for us, where we're just connecting sexual banter is incredibly sexually connecting. Well, I didn't even know that 5 years ago. It's just the last 2 or 3 years that we've noticed that whenever we process through the emotions connected to sexuality, it's sexually connecting, which I would not have thought that was true 5-10 years ago. So I'm mesmerized by that. It's like, wow, that is sexually connecting, just the fact that we got to talk sexually with it. And, Phyllis is my one unique sexual friend. She's the only person on the planet that I talk that way with, and vice versa. And that's sexually connecting in and of itself.
Yeah.
Which, again, is mesmerizing to me because I didn't know that just a few years ago.
Yeah. All right. Next question. We've never used sex toys. How do we start introducing them into our sex lives?
I guess you just say, hello, sex toy. This is Phyllis. Phyllis, this is a sex toy.
Okay,
and then
great.
they're introduced.
Next question.
Next question.
Wow. So let me answer that one.
Yeah.
How about that? I think we have a lot of fear around sex toys. And sometimes you have to break that down. You have to figure out, like, what's behind that. Yeah. And, for some of us, we've been in a box for a really long time where we have not allowed ourselves to even just think about things of that nature. And, it's kind of for each couple, of course, to figure out, is there an actual hesitancy or just never thought about it or don't even know where to start. So to answer it just from, don't know where to start, I would say, that is tricky. And, there are actually, because I know sometimes people go, well, I don't want to get online and type in sex toys because what people say is that so often leads to a porn site. So I want to avoid a porn site.
Yeah, I think everything is 4 steps from a porn site.
Probably,
That's
yeah.
back in the
And so I get that. It's like, okay. And then, sometimes people are like, I don't want to go in a sex shop. Like I just, there's too much, whatever behind that. Okay, get that. So it's almost like that's a question that's a little bit hard to answer because not knowing who the listener is or who the writer is, it's hard to even kind of know. Is it because you just really don't want to get online? It's you don't want to order something. It's you don't want to go into a store. What is the hesitation to even to go there? I think sometimes it's what is considered a sex toy. Is whipped cream a sex toy? I would say, yeah, try whipped cream. Like, and to go, okay, maybe even me saying that, people go, what do you do with whipped cream? It's like, well, put it on different body parts and lick it off. That's very erotic. And that's, probably under the category of a toy, a sex toy. And yet it's a pretty cheap one, and you can go to Kroger or your local grocery store to get that. Sometimes it's like, well, I want to try something with rose petals. Super. Try something fun with rose petals. I want to do something with feathers. Great. Do something with feathers. Or, it's like even what we wear can be under that category of just fun, of toys, of, making things more playful. So as far as, if you want to, I know there's actually companies out there, just like Pampered Chef sells kitchenware. There's companies where you can have someone come in, and I know it's a fun girlfriend, get a bunch of girlfriends together and find someone, I don't know any of them right now, the names Do you remember any of the names of those companies?
Passion Party, I remember.
Passion
I don't know
Party
if they're
used
still
to be
around.
one. I
Yeah.
assume maybe they're still around. But, then it's in your own home. One thing to say about that is they're, in our discovery, more expensive. But hey, that's a pretty comfortable place to start to go, well, let me try that,
Right.
And it's not going to blow your budget out of the water. It's just you can find things a little less expensive.
Yeah.
And I know that I've heard people say that even there's a store in the mall that sells kind of novelty like that. They sell all kinds of Spencer's. I think it's called Spencer's.
Yeah, I mean, they have a wide range.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge wide range. But they also have some fun things in that category. So it really depends on what you want to do, where you want to start. And, if it's like a vibrator, there are quite the variety. And so with the variety can be a less expensive, like a silver bullet is probably $15. And that's, a personal preference, like whatever, but that's a good place to start for $15
Right.
versus another one that could be $150.
Yeah.
And, like with a silver bullet, it's just a battery operated. And so, the things all vary. I think sometimes when you learn what you're kind of interested in, you can do a lot with very creative ways to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is one of the great side benefits of having a passion party or whatever they're called is just the conversation that now we've broached the subject.
Yeah.
Of course, our whole positioning is that it's horrible what we've done culturally, that sex is just totally taboo and all things sexual. We can't talk about anything of a sexual nature. And, we always say that Phyllis and I sit with couples on all points of the sexual spectrum, all the way over here on one side, which, again, we would kind of label as vanilla. And we sat with a couple many years ago who had never French kissed. They had 5 children, and they had never French kissed. But it was traced back to the best she could remember. It was a Sunday school class. She remembers it was a man. It may have been the pastor that said, what business is it of yours to stick your tongue in anybody else's mouth? And that stuck with her throughout her childhood, throughout her teenage years, into her adulthood. And it had never occurred to her that because she said all she could picture is being at a mall and somebody runs up to you and sticks their tongue in your mouth and runs away. Well, that would feel a little bit odd to me. Or if I did that to somebody else, that would be a little bit odd. But she'd never had the conversation. She'd never had the discussion.
Right.
And they're doing a lot more than sticking tongues in mouths now. So, but that was an evolution for them. And it didn't matter. I mean, they have the right to stay there. We certainly don't judge anybody. But they had just never considered before.
Right.
And then one other thing about that, because I know we've done this enough with groups that we hear people go, sex toys not in the Bible. That's very true. Cars are not in the Bible, which that means they're off limits. Refrigerators, air conditioners. There's a massive long list. Washing machines. You need to wash all your clothes by hand because none of these things are mentioned in Scripture. So if we're going to have that perspective, then we have a massive number of things we need to eliminate from our life. But our whole positioning as far as sexuality is just have fun, experiment, explore. I want people regularly trying things, whether it's sex toys or whatever, where that afterwards they go, we'll probably never do that again. Okay, great, you have that right. But you'll never know that if you're not experimenting and trying new things.
I want to add 2 things to this specific question. One is you can buy sex toys on Amazon. I don't think a lot of people know that.
Right.
And truly, like, getting on there, you're not going to be led into any other site. You're not going to go into some dark space, but you can simply get on, buy something, and it will be at your house in 2 days. So, plan in advance.
The bummer about those is you can't return anything that has to do with sexuality. So
Well, but you
buy
probably
cheap.
wouldn't return. Yeah. I mean, like, they have reviews. That's what I like about it. Read the reviews.
Well, many years ago, and we're old, so long before Amazon, we, especially I, would spend so much, because Dr. Ruth, I remember at one point recommended one, and so I bought it, and it was hundreds of dollars, I don't remember. And I think Phyllis used it for about 3.5 minutes, and she was like, hand me that silver bullet over there. I'm like, you mean that back then there were, I think, $6 for a silver bullet? It's like, babe, you don't understand. Dr. Ruth recommends this. You have to love this. She's like, no, I really don't. So but you can't return it.
Can't return it, from
we have a
anywhere.
closet
But
full of
still,
stuff.
like I don't want to discourage people just because you can't return it
Right. Absolutely.
to buy something.
But I do encourage people to start inexpensive.
Yeah,
and
for
work
sure.
your way up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the second thing about that I've now lost, is for me, I am working on becoming a more playful person. I tend to be more serious, more business focused. And so play is hard for me. But a friend of mine shared that she refers to them as tools. And that changed everything for me.
Wow.
And so we refer to them as our sex tools. And I genuinely feel like I have a toolbox.
Yeah.
And they help us to, just like a hammer. You know, you can't build a house without a hammer or a screwdriver. Like they have truly changed our sex life because now I have tools to help me to figure things out.
Wow,
faster
that's
and better.
good.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, and that kind of goes back to, where you need to start with this whole how to introduce. You may have to work through terminology. You may have to work through the fears. You may have to figure out, have you allowed yourself only to stay in this box because of fear? Like, to kind of figure out for yourself, where are you with all of this? And I love that you mentioned Amazon because, that does kind of say, oh, okay, in the privacy of my home through Amazon, I can order something. That means I'm not trying to host a party with a bunch of girlfriends. That means I'm not trying to go to the mall.
It's going to come in a brown box.
Yes. No one will know what I ordered. But because that's, for some of us, that is a great place to start.
Yeah.
And it feels so much safer to start there and not have to go anywhere beyond that at the beginning of it all.
Yeah, yeah. And let me mention that too, just because that's so significant for so many people. Of course, everybody's on their own journey, their own point of the spectrum. But the 3 phrases is what helps you do that, to go, what happens for me thinking about sex toys? What am I missing? What am I missing there? What happens for, there's fear, there's shame, or whatever it is that happens for you, and you process through that. And again, this is not a static thing. It's not that we're saying, okay, Tira, here's our 3-page contract, and you have to sign this, and this is the setup from now on. Absolutely not. Tira just experiments, and she tries a little thing, and then she goes, ooh, I don't like that. Okay, great. And then she's going to try another little thing. And I think that's what happens with people a lot, is they think that this is and again, not that they think that through logically, but they're thinking this is a once and for all agreement, or you're in or you're out, and that it's then mandated that, Tira, once you agree to this, you have to live this way the rest of your life. Not at all. This is very, very gentle and casual and fun and light, and you can make 3,000 adjustments over the coming years because you have that right, and you're just on a journey and an adventure and just having fun with it.
Yeah. Okay, this will kind of lead to our next question, and that is masturbation okay if married? Is masturbation okay?
Yeah. Well, what I have said, and I've never actually had anybody push back against this. Surely now we'll get like 15 emails that do. I am unable to say to someone, if your elbow itches, you're not allowed to scratch it. I decided, or Phyllis and I decided, or the International Board of Body Parts decided that you're not allowed to scratch your elbow if it itches. I don't have that right. I don't have the right to decide for your body what you do. And from a faith-based perspective, I know there's the whole sin of Onan. But if you look at that situation in context, it's silly to say, oh, well, what that means is you can't masturbate, because that's not even what was happening there. It doesn't make sense. So, and if you've never heard of that, don't worry about it. You can look it up if you want to, but whatever. I'm just not going to be the person that says I have the authority to decide that for another person's, or another person's body. I don't have that right.
In that question specifically about that, there is the secrecy. Like, I think sometimes that's another question where it's like, well, does this accommodate these other things? Like, for you to ask that question, or for anyone, it's like, are you hiding it from your spouse because it said in your marriage?
Right.
Then I would definitely say, don't hide that from your spouse.
Right.
And is it, accompanying other things? Is it accompanying watching porn? And so that's, I think often when the question comes up, everyone assumes that it's done in secret, and they assume that it's done with porn.
Right.
Well, don't assume that.
Yeah.
And, even with what you're saying, as far as scratching the elbow, it's kind of, you're taking it out of the, oh, this has to go with porn, and it's like, yeah, this doesn't have to go with porn. And so it goes back to what you want to do. If you want to dance in front of each other, or do a strip tease in front of each other, it's kind of, you kind of start going down this road where I think we're often looking for permission.
Yeah.
We're so fearful of being, condemned that we're like, well,
Right.
I can't do that because somehow in your mind that's associated with porn. And so you're like, oh, I can't, there's no way. And it's like we've done this to ourselves, which is very sad. And I know that's my background for sure. Everything was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. And so, it hurt our early years of marriage so much because I just put it all in this is just wrong. And so
Right.
when that's where you start, it's pretty hard to get out of that mindset. And, and then we're not comfortable with our own bodies. We don't know how to explore our own bodies.
Right.
I mean, for me, forget masturbation. I wouldn't touch my own body, period.
Right.
I mean, as far as, obviously I'd wash my own hands and my hair, so
Yeah.
I'd touch my body in that way, but not if it had anything to do with being sexual.
Yeah.
And so I had a long way to go. That was very far from masturbation. I wasn't comfortable on any level, even looking at my naked body. So, I had so much shame and guilt surrounding all of that I had to work through quite a bit to even get to the question that was just asked, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have countless seat hours just sitting with couples, and the couples, whether male or female or whoever, when they're comfortable with their own bodies, which would include masturbation, or certainly could include, I shouldn't say would, but it could include masturbation, they're so much healthier, because especially for both parties, although men are pretty darn simple, for the female, she's going to be her partner's main teacher.
Yeah.
Well, if she doesn't know, we always say you can't teach what you don't know. You can't lead where you don't go. So if she doesn't know, if she has no idea, it's going to be tough for him to figure it out on his own. So she facilitates that tremendously.
We've seen y'all for counselors, and then we had another counselor before us. And both times the ladies encouraged me to explore my body. And that was the first time anyone had ever said that to me. And it was the first time I'd ever, you're right. Like we're looking for permission to do something because we've been taught for so long that it's bad to do it. And I want to reemphasize, I agree that I think the part where it can become, air quoting, bad is the secrecy aspect of it. I think that when we allow it to become a secret, then we feel even more shame about it. And that's where then we can allow other factors to play in. And so for Wes and I, what we have done is which one I would recommend for couples to do an issue specific wheel if there is a lot of emotion around masturbation for both of you. So you can hear what each other's fears are. You can hear each other's shame and how you feel about that specifically. But what Wes and I have done is we've created our boundaries of like, this is what's okay when we do it. This is how we communicate about it. We talk to each other about it, and we're very open. Now, I will say it has taken years to get to the point of being comfortable talking about it. And even still, y'all know I just say everything. We have no secrets. We call it taking care of business. So sometimes if I'm like struggling and I know that I'm not going to be sexually engaging, I'm like, hey, bud, if you need to take care of business, like, go for it, because we still are not to the full level of me being able to be like, yeah, let's just go masturbate, And so I think it's just creating boundaries, talking about what's safe, what you feel comfortable with, and you can do that while using the core emotion wheel around it.
Yeah, and I just want to add to just even the 3 phrases, which we do with couples all the time, is say, so what would happen if you masturbated? What would happen? What would you be missing? What would be the big miss if you masturbated? And of course, people don't really. I mean, I grew up thinking you would self-combust and go to hell instantly, because that's just what happens, which included drinking, having a drink of alcohol, included dancing, you would just self-combust and immediately be sent to hell forever. And of course, as many years later, I found out, oh, that's actually not true, which I was startled to learn these things because I grew up in an incredibly fundamentalist, dogmatic, legalistic, religious setting. And it's important to understand this is centuries old. This is not something that developed in the last 10 years or whatever. This is many, many centuries. And that's part of my field of study is how this developed, what happened somewhere around the 4th century or so. And there was a massive shift as far as the view of sexuality. And we're still suffering from that shift that has not really been completely undone.
Sitting here thinking about just things that are done in secret, and it's not just sexual things.
Yeah.
I think what I'm thinking about is food. If you are like hiding food, or you get up in the middle of the night and consume, whatever, a whole
Bag of Oreos.
Yeah, a whole bag of Oreos in secret, and no one knows, and you don't tell anyone, and things like that really become they turn into a problem.
Yeah.
It's the secrecy of that. And, if you want to eat a whole thing of Oreos, there's no judgment on that. I mean, it is unhealthy, but there's no judgment on that. It's
what if they're double stuffed?
Right. Then they're really good.
Oh, that's worse. Is that better? I can't tell.
But it's the secrecy. It's like whatever. Yeah. I mean, we could go on and on as, when you go out and spend money and you don't tell your partner, and you're doing things with a conscience that says, I don't want anyone to know I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And whether you're married or not, like, I don't want anyone to know I'm doing this. It's like, whoa, that's a scary road to start going down.
Yeah.
Is to because in a sense you're living a lie in whatever category it is. And so, for us, it's like that is the time when we say masturbation is dangerous. Or I would even say wrong if in your marriage you're secret about it, because that will build a wall. That will build. You will become an imposter in your marriage if that is what you're doing. And that there may be a lot of fear around it. Like if that's you and you're listening, you may go, oh, if I tell my spouse, it'll be over. Wow. It's like, I get that fear, but to continue and then to go, well, I'll just stop doing it. Good luck there.
Right.
But it's got to come out into the light. Like it's got to come out into to talk about whatever it is that in your life you're living in secret in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where the connection goes, what we call cyclation, when nobody knows what's happening with you. But again, as you said, that'd be true for anything.
Right. Any
shopping.
Category.
Well, shopping's not evil. Shopping's not wrong.
Right.
But if you're out of control in shopping and nobody knows about it, well, you're living in cyclation and this thing is strangling you. That would be true for video games. Well, it's not wrong to play a video game, but I know people that are completely addicted to video games and they hide in that. So that would be true for anything.
Yeah. Okay, that is great. Totally agree. Here's the next question. What if one partner likes doing a certain thing and the other doesn't? How do you decide if you do that or not?
Well, again, issue-specific will is great to process through what happens for you around that idea. And things are not static. You don't decide once and for all forever that, we're either going to do this and we're signing a 15-year contract about it, or we're just going to experiment and we'll process through the emotion before, and then we'll just try this thing. We'll experiment. We'll see what happens. And we'll process through the emotion afterwards and go, oh, well, that wasn't nearly as terrifying as I thought it was going to be. I felt a lot of fear around the idea of trying that, but actually there was a joy point in it, or there wasn't. And if not, great. Our whole positioning is we say, our goal for you is to regularly try things where afterwards you go, oh, we've never done that before, and we'll probably never do that again. That was weird and wasn't fun, and, we just don't want to do that. But then there'll be lots of things that you go, oh, we've never done that before, and we should try that again sometime.
It kind of goes back to, in this scenario, we have a late night masterclass. We talk about sexual friendship, and definitely highly at this moment, if you're listening and you've not seen the masterclass, the late night masterclass, order it today. Like go through this masterclass, because we really dive deep into first of all, laying a foundation for all of this, but also answering tons of questions. And, when I think about sexual friendship, like for Glenn, he doesn't care for sushi. I like sushi. Most of the people, I would say most of our kids love sushi.
Oh,
Most
yeah.
of our friends love sushi. And, Glenn goes many times. I mean, if there's ever hey, let's go for sushi, he's going. And he always finds something to order on the menu, and he never makes a big deal out of the fact that he doesn't like sushi. And I think that, to me, that's friendship. That is friendship where you go, yeah. And Glenn is so cute because he doesn't like coffee, and but he loves to go to coffee shops with friends with me, and of course we make fun of him because he's forever trying to find a coffee drink that he likes, and we're just like, you know what? You don't have to try. Like, just order tea. It's okay. Coffee shops have tea. But he's always trying. He's just determined that someday he's going to find a coffee that he likes.
Yeah.
And I think about that with just having that. And I think both of you have already said it, figuring out what's happening for you. If your partner suggests or just has a dream or a desire or a fantasy of, I'd love to try this, and your first response is, that's disgusting, no. It's like, whoa, man, you're building a pretty solid box
Yeah.
that you're going, I'm only living in this box. And if you want anything else, forget it, because I'm in this one box. And I think especially when I hear women say that, for me, there's so much sadness in that. Because it's like, I know where that comes from.
Right.
I know that that's a heritage of information that's been handed to you where you think something is gross in our sexual adventure. Like, wow, that's so sad to me.
Yeah.
And, to just go. And I know there's times, like you've talked about this, you go to certain countries and you realize, wow, in your culture, this is a delicacy. And in my mind, that's gross. And it's like, do I just stay there, or do I open my mind to go, it's a delicacy for you. So I want to understand your country. I want to be open to the things that you do, to the things that you enjoy. And I don't want to be so closed-minded that I can only, live within my own culture. I want to understand other people's culture. And I think sexually, if your mindset is, no, that's gross or that's wrong, to realize you've really boxed yourself in.
Yeah.
And to kind of go down that road, be willing to go, give me some time. I've got a lot to process. I've got to figure out, that's gross. And to kind of realize, wow, you're limiting yourself and your partner when that is your mindset.
Yeah, I took a group out recently, and we played bocce ball, and none of them had ever played bocce ball before. And I don't like playing bocce ball in the courts. If you do, I'm happy for you. Play bocce ball in the bocce ball court. But I like playing it just out in the open. And we were on this big farm, and we went all over the place. It was phenomenal. And every person that was involved said, I've never played bocce ball before, and that was amazing. That's my new favorite game. Well, they never played it before. So the same principle is very true sexually. You're going to try things that you go, whoa, I've never done that before, and that was amazing. But you only find those by trying things, some of which you're going to go, that didn't really do it for me. And there's not a 10-year contract.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens is people think there's, not that they literally think there's a 10-year contract, but they think, well, if I sign on to this, then I'm stuck for life or something.
Yeah.
But it's an ongoing, evolving relationship, and we're just trying things. And it's amazing to me. We try to always convey this. We've been married over 40 years, and we regularly look at each other and go, we've never tried that before. And again, sometimes we go, we'll probably never try it again. And then sometimes we're like, we got to try that again. That was amazing. We got a C-, and surely we can get up to a B+ if we practice.
Wow.
Yeah, I think a huge part of this specific question is the issue-specific will and figuring out what is blocking you.
Yep.
And you sharing the
happening,
story earlier saying, that there was the girl who had never French kissed her husband after so many years.
Yep.
And it dates back to her childhood of someone telling her this. And I think so often a lot of our things that are preventing us from trying new things or moving forward are actually being influenced from someone in our past. And so, and some of that is maybe even be trauma, a trauma experience
Yeah.
that you need to process with each other. And if your spouse is sharing, I actually don't want to do this because there's a trauma experience there, that's a totally different conversation. That is a level of sensitivity for you to tune into them.
Absolutely.
Seek help, definitely reach out for counseling or coaching through that specific issue. But if it's not trauma related, maybe it's just a shame issue.
Yeah.
And so by doing that will and really diving deep into what is happening for me around this position or this tool or whatever it is that you're wanting to explore that I feel hesitant to, it may help you unlock a whole new level of your sex life.
Yeah, let me also just throw in, because we always say this, and the reason we say the phrase, we're not going to be there, we're not going to buy the video, is because we want people to make sure that people know we're not trying to sell them something.
Right.
I don't want anybody to do anything in any area of their life, but anything sexually that's harmful for them. And I don't want anybody ever to be forced to say, well, my partner demands this, therefore I have to do this. Absolutely not. That's not our perspective at all. I just want it to be a growth, a journey, an adventure, so that what they look like a year from now, it's probably going to look a lot different than what they look like today.
Yeah. And that you do have a friendship.
Yes,
I think that's what we champion.
absolutely.
And a friendship is like that mutual understanding of where we both want to show up for each other. And I think as long as you have that desire in you to want to show up for your partner in that way, you will continue to grow together. I think that's a huge part. Okay, we're going to ask one more question just for the sake of time. We have so many more that we may do full episodes about. But this one is, any advice for a man who has a higher sex drive than his wife, any ways he can help her?
Well, a huge part of that is processing the emotion, what's happening for her in it. Now, the idea that this couple, any partner in pair, any two humans are going to be exactly the same height, it could happen. It's very, very unusual to say these two human beings are exactly the same height or like ice cream at exactly the same level. Well, that's just not going to be true. So the idea that the two partners are going to have the exact same sex drive, could it happen? I guess. I've never seen it. I'm not saying there's not some couple somewhere that has that. So you're virtually always going to have a quote unquote mismatch of sexual drive. And typically, not always, but typically a male has a higher sex drive than a female does. There are certainly exceptions. There are outliers in that, and we're all outliers in some area of life. But you just process through what's happening with you. And I think it's fair to say that for the two of us, I've always had a higher sex drive. And we don't really even view it as that, sex drive. And I get what people mean by that. But I'm more aware of sexuality. I'm activated sexually far more often than Phyllis is, and more readily than Phyllis is. But that doesn't mean we can't dance, because we just convey through what's happening for us.
In that question, something we talk about in our masterclass are brakes and accelerators. And it's really important for you to understand your spouse's brakes and accelerators. So in that question specifically, it sounds like it's a husband. So for him to know his wife's brakes, what's happening in her life that is, in a sense, distracting her from sexual pleasure, sexual playtime, and then what would help accelerate her. And, that is very individual. Like that, you can't just go, all women, this is the break for all women. That's not true. So you have to really understand what it is for your spouse that is a break. And, we go through seasons. I mean, if your babies are small, that's a huge break for a lot of women, but not all women. Some women, for whatever, during that season are more activated. So you got to know, we were with a couple over the weekend and they have a newborn baby who's sleeping really well. Wow. Like that's a rare thing.
Yeah.
And so again, don't just assume. You can't look up a list.
Right.
Okay, what are a female's brakes? What are a female's accelerators? No. You got to know this about your partner. And if what I'm even saying makes no sense to you, then you need to buy the masterclass and watch the late night masterclass and really understand what's behind brakes and what's behind accelerators, because that's huge for you to know that about your partner.
Yeah, I would agree. And also, we have a whole episode 25. We talk about this. We had a listener write in, and he is struggling in his relationship because he has a higher drive than his wife, and how to help. And I would agree. I do. I think this is where the logistics a lot of times play in, especially for a woman if she is struggling with her drive, because it may be stress or exhaustion. And those things are also emotion. But even just asking your partner, how can I partner with you? You know, you talk about having time to yourself beforehand. That was a game changer for me, was having that Sunday afternoon yoga class and then going home and I didn't talk to my kids after 4 p.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And so figuring out that partnership and also the orgasm element to it, which is where the tools, it's where the core emotion wheel can come in, and working through those things. If she can find pleasure in it, her drive, I would is safe to assume will at least shift, you know?
Yeah, I sat with a couple just recently, and their premarital counselor told her, don't worry about orgasms. That's not the focus. That's not that important. It's just all about connection. Well, that sounds cool. And they've been married several years. I don't remember how many. And I just asked her, I said, I'm a little confused. What's prompting you to show up sexually at all? You get, kindness, I guess. I mean, or just service or something. I don't know. But I'm like, how do you even show up at all? And of course, they were so disconnected. There was so much pain. And then there was core level anger for me for these premarital counselors that had told her that. That's so bad. Because I guarantee you, nobody's saying that about the guy.
Yeah.
I've never met the man who's like, doesn't matter that much if I orgasm or not, no big deal. I've never heard that before. I'm not saying they're not out there somewhere. I've never met them.
Yeah.
So to say that to a female, I just think is, borders on malpractice. It's just such a travesty to tell her that. And she just accepted it because it was her, I don't know, spiritual mentors or something. She's just like, well, if they say it, then it's true. And so she had never orgasmed, which is our story. Very much the same for us. And that's just such a tragedy to set it up that way is really unfortunate.
Yeah. No, totally agree with that. Thank you so much for answering these. I think that was so helpful. And it's something that I wish that I'd had earlier in marriage. You know, I didn't do the master class until July 2020, and that changed everything for Wes and I's sexual relationship, which then changed everything for our emotional relationship. You know, we had done the foundations class first, but once we did the late night, man, the emotional connection just increased dramatically.
Yeah, and they play off of each other so much.
For sure.
We emphasize this, just deeply with the late night, is we view it as a ladder. And the first set of rungs is emotional connection, but the second set of rungs is sexual connection. And then it just gets higher and higher. And I've already said that, but we're just so startled. And I guess I have to mention that too real quickly. I'm 61 years old. Our culture says, oh, that old guy, he's way past this. I'm starting to get good at it. I mean, nothing has diminished. And what our culture says is, oh, no, those old people, that's way overdone. That they're just past that stage, quote unquote, of life. But that's based on fallacies that are centuries old, that we think that, you mature past this, you grow past it or something. And the opposite is actually true, but we don't have voices in our culture that are saying that. So we always say we want to be the gentle voice screaming in your ear that it doesn't have to be that way at all.
Yeah, 100%. All right, you want to close us out by doing the core emotion wheel?
Yeah, you want to do it about sex?
Sure.
Okay.
Current or past?
Oh, you pick. Or all of the above.
All the above. Okay, well, just all the above. So the listener won't know whether this is current or past. All right. You want me to go first?
Sure.
So I'll start with anger. Anger of all the wounding that happened with us due to no one talking to us about sex. A lot of anger about that. I think sadness for me in just how much pain, that has been a part of our 40 years because of sex, and a lot of hurt in that for me, just just because of our journey, our story, and that's part of why we talk about it so much now, because we don't want other people to go through the hurt that we've gone through. The loneliness, definitely. I feel a lot of loneliness in this. We just got back from traveling and where we spoke about sex, and that's not always easy for me because I have received a lot of rejection in my life from family and friends because we do talk about sex. And people have communicated being really embarrassed by us because we talk about sex. And so I feel lonely in that arena often. Even when I'm talking to an audience, I look out and I wonder how many people are judging me. So I do experience loneliness in that. And maybe there's fear in that as well. Fear that a listener will, that what we're saying will cause pain, and fear that we'll be misunderstood, we'll be misquoted, we'll be and that, fear of even rejection, fear of people going, don't invite them to come because, of this, that has to do with sex. So definitely fear in that. Guilt and shame, I think, the shame part is definitely, I do get hit with shame at times just in talking about this. Like this, I was not raised to talk about this topic. I was raised that this is extremely private, extremely, don't talk about it. Guilt, I would say the guilt is probably twofold. Guilt that I have hurt you in it. Many times over the 40 years, I've hurt you in it. Guilt in that. And then guilt for myself, just guilt that I've hurt myself in it, and that I, just didn't know what to do with it, I guess, the topic of sex. So, joy. I would say joy of where we have been able to get to in 40 years. Like, there is a lot of joy because there's a lot of hope to me for everyone out there because of our story and because of where we've gotten to, even with all the early misses and trauma of our early years.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. Thank you. For me, there's so much joy, just sexual connection with you. We've set several world records this year, and we've invented a couple things, patent pending, of course. But just that we get to just play, experiment. We very much believe in the late night masterclass and doing the things that we cover in it, and it's just a blast. So just joy out the roof continuously. A lot of sadness that it took us so dang long to get there, and sadness for culture that, because I'm not sure, but that possibly is the number one wounder in relationships, partner and pairs, is just sexual misconnection or disconnection. And doesn't have to be that way. A lot of sadness in that. Lots of hurts over the years when we were just clueless. It's amazing to me. I don't like speaking in absolutes, but it's just been so many years since there's been hurt, there's been wounding with you sexually, which is stunning to me, and so a lot of joy in that people can get past, because we were very, very traumatized in so many ways. There's so much loneliness for so many years, and even now sometimes that, because I know we stay so busy and you're busy, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel sexual loneliness, but I don't want to bother her, and it's difficult sometimes for me to go ahead and convey it to you. There's guilt even in that sometimes, that, oh my gosh, she's busy, she's got a lot on her. I don't want to bother her sexually. And I know that's not your positioning at all. It hasn't been for a very long time. And so I guess shame in that sometimes, especially because our cultural message is I should be past this. I shouldn't even be aware of sex drive, sexuality anymore. And I'm just a freak, 61-year-old sexual freak. Fear, I guess occasionally fear, just sharing with you authentically, which again, you haven't responded poorly in forever, a very, very long time, but I still get hit with fear sometimes. And anger that we missed it so badly, I missed it so badly with you, our culture missed it so badly, nobody was there for us. And that's a big part of the driver, because some of that secondary anger, but the core level anger says, okay, we got to change this culturally. This is just too damaging.
Wow.
And nobody should have to experience what we did, to go through what we did, because that's not the design, and that's not what they were thinking the day before their wedding, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Whether they're involved sexually before their wedding or not, they're thinking this is going to be an awesome area of life, forever.
Wow.
Thank you all so much. And thank you all for listening and joining us today. We've mentioned several times our late night masterclass. If you are like, okay, we need more help in this area, well, we have a guide to help you. You can go to connectioncodes.co/late night. And I'm even going to include a coupon today for 20% off. Use the code podcast, and that will get you 20% off of your late night course. So please don't wait, just like you just said, Dr. Glenn, that you believe that this is one of the largest pain points for marriage. Like I completely agree with you in that. And not only is it the pain point in the moment, but I think we create the most damage sexually.
I think so.
So even as we heal, like now, Wes and I we're healed sexually, we're connected, but when we fight about sex, it's all from past damages. So the longer you go on the path of being disconnected sexually, the more damage that you're creating for the future.
Wow.
And so definitely go to connectioncodes.co/late night and use the code podcast for 20% off.
And let me just add, and I'm not a good marketer. I think everybody probably knows that by now. I've never seen anything like this in my life as far as what we cover in the late night masterclass. I know we did it, so it always feels weird to present it. But I'm telling you, I've been around a bit. I'm old. I have over 30,000 seat hours, so I've done this a bit. I've never seen anything like it. It's not that there's not other good things out there. There are. But you need this.
You deserve this.
So let's do this.
Let's do this.